The anime opens inside a dark dungeon where a lone adventurer is busy slaughtering horned bunnies that look like unicorns but behave more like nightmares. While the concept sounds ridiculous, it becomes immediately clear that these creatures are anything but cute. Oren cuts through several of them with practiced ease, quietly wondering how his sword skills have remained so sharp despite not fighting seriously for quite some time. The bunny massacre barely has time to settle before a group of goblins storms in, eager to volunteer themselves for defeat. Rather than relying solely on raw swordplay, Oren enhances himself with support magic, dramatically boosting his attack power. The effect allows him to tear through multiple goblins at once, proving that versatility can be just as lethal as specialization. Unfortunately, the magic lasts only 3 minutes, forcing Oren to recast it immediately once it wears off. Missing that window during an intense battle would be less oops and more fatal mistake. After what could generously be called a productive day at work, slaying monsters for a living, Oren returns to the hero's party mansion, expecting recognition or at least a pat on the back. Instead, he receives something far less pleasant. His childhood friends, now his teammates, inform him that he is being dismissed from the party entirely. The promotion he had unknowingly hoped for turns into a spectacular demotion straight out the door. Naturally, Oren argues his case, pointing out that Oliver's decision-making skills leave much to be desired. Oliver, however, remains unmoved. According to him, Oren is talented at everything but exceptional at nothing. Every member of the hero's party specializes in a single role, attack, defense, or support, and they no longer need a jack-of-all-trades who can do a bit of everything. What they want is a dedicated enchanter capable of delivering overwhelming support magic. Oren had been filling that role out of necessity, not preference, simply because no one else in the clan could. That temporary solution, Oliver explains, has reached its expiration date. To make matters worse, Oliver drops the final blow. The clan already has a new enchanter lined up, and the group has collectively decided that Oren's flexibility is more of a liability than an asset. With nothing left to argue, Oren thanks the clan for their time together and leaves the office without another word. His blank expression speaks louder than any outburst ever could. To vent the frustration of betrayal, Oren does what he knows best. He dives back into dungeon hunting. Though the wound left by his former friends is still fresh, it fuels a new resolve rather than breaking him. Instead of remaining a jack of all trades, he decides to aim higher and become a master of all trades. The idea sounds impossible, but Oren knows his own limits, and more importantly, his potential. He is certain the hero's party made a mistake by letting him go. During a solo raid in a new dungeon, Oren encounters a group of adventurers fleeing in panic. They explain that they narrowly escaped a horde of demons, but abandoned one of their allies in the process. This revelation clashes violently with Oren's sense of justice, combined with the bitterness of his recent betrayal. It ignites a dangerous amount of rage. Without hesitation, he demands to know where they left their companion, and immediately heads deeper into the dungeon. There, he finds a young girl trapped and surrounded by monsters twice her size, each one far stronger than she is. She maintains a defensive spell, fully aware that both her strength and the barrier have limits. As the shield begins to falter, she calls out desperately for her sister, tears streaming down her face. Her answer does not come from her sister, but from Oren. He cuts through the demons with terrifying precision, acknowledging that enemies of this caliber would normally overwhelm most dungeon raiders. The girl watches in awe as Oren seamlessly combines expert swordsmanship with self-cast support magic, something she has never seen anyone do so effectively. By the time the fight ends, her fear has been completely replaced by admiration, grateful beyond words. The girl introduces herself as Sophia Claudel and offers to repay Oren by treating him to dinner. Initially, he declines in classic shy protagonist fashion, but Sophia's charm proves far too persuasive. They head to a cozy restaurant, where Sophia's older sister soon joins them. The sister, Selma, takes one look at the scene and immediately misunderstands everything. With the reasoning skills of an excited child, she assumes her little sister has brought Oren along on a date. After several painfully awkward exchanges, the misunderstanding is finally cleared up. Sophia explains what happened, and Selma becomes deeply indebted to Oren for saving her sister. Oren, however, reacts very differently. Selma is no ordinary woman. She is a powerful enchantress and the very person who influenced Oliver's belief that the hero's party needed stronger, more specialized support. She was the one who promoted rigid dungeon roles, swordsmen, defenders, and dedicated enchanters. That system revolutionized dungeon raiding, but it also pushed adaptable fighters like Oren out of demand. Ironically, the person responsible for reshaping modern dungeon teams is now sitting right in front of him. Despite this, Oren feels no resentment. After speaking with Selma, he recognizes her as someone who genuinely saved lives by improving how dungeon raids operate, not as someone who stole his place. That realization says a great deal about a character. Selma, in turn, sees potential in Oren. She does not judge him for being dismissed from a hero's party, and instead recognizes his rare versatility. She invites him to assist the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, one of the most prestigious clans in the country, for a single job. Though still cautious after his recent betrayal, Oren accepts, reassured by the fact that he is not officially joining, just helping out. Later, Oren visits a familiar shop owned by an elderly merchant preparing to close for the day. The man allows him to stay, grateful for Oren's longtime patronage during his days with the hero's party. Oren admits that he will no longer be as valuable a customer now that he has lost his status. The old man simply reminds him that status never mattered. What mattered was that Oren was the same person who had walked into the shop for the first time all those years ago. That reminder gives Oren a renewed sense of hope, and with it, the resolve to move forward into the next chapter of his life. The next episode opens with Oren meeting the leader of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, where he is briefed on an upcoming expedition. The plan involves pushing down a dungeon level 51 with a massive party that includes an unusually high number of rookies. While experienced members are supposed to provide support, the explanation does little to ease Oren's concerns. Oren is known for his ability to read between the lines, and in this case, the lines might as well be glowing red. Sending rookies that deep into a dungeon, even with veterans backing them up, sounds less like a training mission and more like a pre-written incident report. The situation becomes even more suspicious when he learns how generous the pay is. His instincts are practically screaming that something is wrong, but at this stage in his life, things have already gone so badly that he figures they cannot realistically get much worse. With that grim optimism, he agrees to join the expedition under his new clan. Unbeknownst to Oren, Selma has already spoken with the Silver Rabbit leader beforehand and informed him that Oren has been cast aside by his previous party. She makes it clear what she thinks of that decision. In her view, the hero clan must have been severely impaired to consider someone like Oren a liability. Selma explains that she understands Oren's abilities better than most. While his support magic may be slightly below average in raw power, his casting speed more than compensates for it. On top of that, his instincts and ability to assess situations instantly are exceptional. The fact that many of the spells he uses are entirely his own creations only further proves his talent. Selma argues that people like Oren are easily overlooked by fools, but their true value is obvious to anyone with real intelligence. She compares him to a diamond placed in the hand of a child, pointing out that as someone that immature, a priceless gem and a random rock hold the same value. Vince Briers agrees with her assessment and adds that the hero clan is likely in for a rude awakening when they finally realize how badly they misjudged their own strength. The following day arrives, and Selma is visibly pleased to see Oren join the expedition. She gathers a large group of rookies and delivers a rousing speech meant to boost morale, though her method is, at best, questionable. She announces that Oren, formerly of a hero clan, will be accompanying them and casually mentions that he has reached dungeon level 94. The rookies immediately explode with excitement. Oren, however, is far less enthusiastic. He confronts Selma and points out that the claim is misleading, since he did not reach that depth on his own. He also makes it clear that the last thing he wants is to be publicly associated with the hero clan. Selma, being a seasoned leader, counters that maintaining rookie morale is more important than strict honesty. She explains that a slightly bent truth increases confidence, which in turn increases the odds of mission success, making everyone's life easier in the process. Oren finds himself unable to produce a convincing counterargument, and by then, the damage is already done. He is ultimately assigned to a team of 3 rookies for the expedition. The trio immediately declare themselves the best rookies in the entire clan and confidently announce their grand ambitions. From Oren's perspective as a veteran, the only conclusion he can reach is that they are suffering from a severe case of overconfidence. The team leader is a young man named Logan Hayward, followed by the energetic Caroline, and finally the shy but familiar Sophia. During the expedition, the first monsters they encounter are a pair of oversized wolves, which promptly blunder into one of Oren's spell traps. How none of the rookies detect the wolves beforehand remains a mystery, rivaling the Bermuda Triangle, especially given that they are supposedly trained for exactly this scenario. As they continue through the dungeon, the difficulty steadily increases, forcing the rookies to reveal their abilities. While all 3 prove capable, their flaws quickly become apparent. Logan, in particular, behaves less like a commanding leader and more like a stressed-out child venting his frustrations whenever things go wrong. Eventually, the party reaches their objective for the day, and everyone returns safely. The next morning, Oren wakes up only to discover that his former party has metaphorically shoved yet another middle finger in his direction. The hero clan has publicly announced that they have acquired a new enchanter and have officially parted ways with Oren. The announcement feels less like a professional separation and more like a public execution of his reputation. Needing to clear his head, Oren heads out and unexpectedly encounters another familiar face. Luna. She attempts to convince him to return to the party, insisting that not everyone agreed with how things were handled. Oren refuses, explaining that his former teammates did not simply let him go, they humiliated him. While Luna may be one of the few good things about the clan, one person alone cannot overturn the will of the entire group. With that, Oren parts ways with her as well. The next episode opens with Oren making his way toward the Night Sky Silver Rabbit's expedition site, his mood noticeably somber. His thoughts are consumed by the same fear that has haunted him since morning. How his peers and the rookies would now perceive him after the explosive article that dominated the front page. Until yesterday, he had managed to keep the truth buried, but now the entire world knew. The report revealed that he had not left his previous party by choice. He had been expelled. Worse still, it openly declared that his banishment was due to his weakness. Oren fully expects the rookies of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits to regard him with suspicion and doubt. When he finally arrives and greets them with a strained smile, his fears are quickly confirmed. The rookies return his greeting with far less enthusiasm than before. Even the most oblivious observer could tell that they had learned the truth overnight and no longer looked up to him as they once had. The tension in the air is unmistakable. Though the rookies have lost faith in him, their respect for hierarchy keeps them from voicing their doubts openly. The atmosphere shifts when Selma arrives. Without hesitation, she offers a public apology to Oren. She explains that she had previously used his former party affiliation to bolster the rookie's morale, only for the news of his banishment to completely undermine that effort. Oren responds calmly, telling Selma to lift her head as she always does. He insists that she has nothing to apologize for. At that moment, one of the members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbit speaks up, pointing out that the reason behind Oren's expulsion is ultimately irrelevant. What truly matters, they argue, is that Oren has experience reaching as deep as dungeon level 94. That alone makes him an invaluable asset. His record proves that he is more than capable of guiding a group of rookies safely to level 51. These words gradually restore the shaken morale of both his peers and the rookies who have been quietly harboring doubts about his ability. Soon after, the group prepares to enter the dungeon. Oren is assigned to lead the same rookies he had been paired with the previous day. Before moving out, he breaks the ice by apologizing for not being honest about his expulsion from his former party. Caroline and Sophia respond with understanding, far more forgiving than Logan, the youngest among them. Logan bluntly asks whether the newspaper's claims are true. Oren admits that, unfortunately, most of what was written is accurate. He acknowledges that he was deemed too weak for his previous party, and does not deny it. Logan falls silent, inwardly scolding himself for his own naivete. Just a day ago, he had been eager and excited to be led by Oren. Now, he feels foolish for having admired him so readily. Sophia, however, reacts differently. Having once been saved by Oren, she openly dismisses the newspaper's account as a distortion of the truth. She states firmly that she has witnessed Oren's abilities firsthand and believes he is anything but weak. Her words strike a chord with him, restoring the confidence he needs. Reinvigorated, Oren takes charge, and with renewed resolve, he leads the team into the dungeon as they begin their exploration of the lower floors. With Oren's extensive experience guiding them and the natural talent of Logan, Sophia, and Caroline supporting him, the four advance through the dungeon with remarkable efficiency. Floor after floor falls behind them with little resistance, and before long they reach level 31. Oren, keenly aware of the rookie's strengths and limitations, recognizes that from this point onward the dangers will escalate. He assumes full responsibility for the group's safety and informs them that he will be issuing commands from now on, relieving Logan of his role as acting leader. Their first encounter with orcs at this depth proves more challenging than expected. As anticipated, Caroline charges forward to draw the enemy's attention. Oren immediately instructs Logan to reinforce her with enhancement magic, allowing her to perform her role as a defender more effectively. Logan is not particularly impressed by these tactics. To him, the orders seem obvious, something anyone could have come up with under the circumstances. He privately concludes that perhaps the legendary Oren is not as exceptional as his reputation suggests, and that his banishment from a hero's party may have been justified. That assumption, however, does not last long. Mid-battle, Logan notices that Sophia has stopped moving as decisively as she usually does. Drawing on his own intuition, he quickly connects her hesitation to the recent trauma she suffered when she nearly lost her life to orcs. For a brief moment, Logan wonders whether Oren will fail to notice and whether he himself will need to intervene. Instead, Oren does something entirely unexpected. Rather than strengthening an ally, Oren casts a debuff directly onto the orc before them, weakening its abilities. Logan has never witnessed such magic use so effortlessly. Before anyone can react, Oren moves calmly to Sophia's side and reassures her, reminding her that this time she is not alone. He tells her that her friends are fighting alongside her and that the orcs pose no real threat. Those words pull Sophia out of her frozen state. Regaining her composure, she launches her trump card, Fire Javelin, obliterating the orc in a single strike. Logan can only stare in stunned silence. With Oren's precise support magic, the remaining orcs fall with surprising ease, and the party continues deeper into the dungeon. Upon reaching floor 35, Logan experiences genuine fear for the first time when they encounter a death tarantula, a massive, spider-like monster. He knows all too well that neither he, Caroline, nor Sophia could defeat such a creature on their own. Even now, he remains skeptical of Oren's true ability. That skepticism fades quickly. Oren issues flawless commands, positioning Logan safely in the rear while instructing him to grant Caroline an agility buff to help her evade the spider's attacks. He then orders a magic enhancement for Sophia, allowing her to sever the monster's legs with Arrow Cutter. The rookies believe the battle is over, but Oren alone remains vigilant, anticipating the creature's resilience. He orders additional buffs for Caroline just moments before the tarantula ensnares her in its web. When Logan's strength enhancement proves insufficient to free her, Oren intervenes directly, casting a rare sharpness enchantment on Caroline's blade. The enhanced weapon allows her to escape, and under Oren's continued direction, Sophia finishes the fight by crushing the monster with a massive rock spell. With the death tarantula defeated, the expedition for the day comes to an end. Later, the three rookies gather to discuss Oren's performance, their admiration unmistakable. They marvel at the sharpness enchantment he used, an advanced buff that enhances the weapon itself rather than the wielder, a technique rarely seen even among skilled enchanters. Logan also notes how astonishing Oren's debuff magic was, remarking that such spells are exceedingly rare and that even Selma uses them sparingly. Yet Oren cast them without effort. Sophia adds that when Oren once rescued her, his swordsmanship was just as impressive, proving that his talents extend far beyond support magic alone. By the end of their conversation, Logan's doubts about Oren have completely vanished. Elsewhere, Oren shares dinner with several members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. As they talk, he reveals his true ambition, to become a swordsman who can wield magic independently. He explains that in his previous team, the lack of a dedicated enchanter forced him into the role for the sake of his comrades. Now, he dreams of becoming a self-sufficient magic swordsman, capable of exploring the lower levels alone. He also recounts the story of his grandfather, a legendary swordsman who once slew a monstrous creature single-handedly with nothing but a blade. His new companions listen in awe, holding Oren in the highest regard. Meanwhile, Caroline and Sophia bathe together, reflecting on the fact that the following day will mark the final stage of the expedition, and their inevitable separation from Oren. Caroline suggests that Sophia try to convince him to stay. With the right words, she believes there may still be hope for Oren to become the newest and most valuable member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. The fourth episode opens with Oren making his way toward the southern dungeon site to begin the expedition with the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. This marks his final day with the party, as his contract with them was limited to just 3 days. As he arrives, he reunites with the 3 disciples who have accompanied him for the past 2 days, and who will remain at his side for this last mission as well. All 3 appear energetic and eager, brimming with confidence as they prepare to challenge the dungeon's lower floors. Their enthusiasm clearly stems from their absolute trust in Oren's abilities. Caroline openly remarks that the 3 of them would like to receive a gift if they successfully clear the lower floors by the end of the day. Sophia, however, has only one wish in mind. More than any material reward, she wants Oren to become a permanent member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Before she can gather the courage to express her feelings, Selma calls out to Oren from a distance. He steps away at once, apologizing for the abrupt interruption and explaining that he must respond, as Selma would not call him without a good reason. As he heads toward her, Oren overhears a group of rookie adventurers whispering that the hero's party will also be raiding the dungeon today, accompanied by their new enchanter. According to rumors, they plan to begin their expedition on a floor as deep as the 92nd. The news strikes Oren as illogical. From his perspective, introducing a new member should warrant starting at a much safer level rather than plunging straight into the dungeon's inner depths. After a brief moment of consideration, he dismisses the thought and continues on his way, reminding himself that the hero's party is no longer his concern. Meanwhile, on that same day, the hero's party is already far within the dungeon, accompanied by their newly recruited and supposedly powerful enchanter, Philly Carpenter. Their leader, Oliver, raises the party's spirits by declaring that they will conquer the dungeon in no time now that Oren is no longer holding them back. He further reassures them that, with such a formidable enchanter now on their side, victory is all but guaranteed. The scene shifts back to 2 days earlier, to the moment when the new enchanter, Philly, is introduced into the den of the hero's party. To celebrate the addition of what Oliver proudly calls a powerful new member, he hosts a lavish feast. With the exception of Oren, only one person is missing from the gathering: Luna, the sole member of the party who had consistently valued Oren's contributions. Throughout the feast, the conversation revolves around a single topic. The party repeatedly claims that their true potential had long been suppressed by Oren, whom they now dismiss as nothing more than dead weight. With Philly now on their side, they confidently declare that nothing will stand in their way as they prepare to clear the Southern Gate dungeon. They praise Philly's extensive experience, emphasizing her record of reaching the 100th floor of the Western Dungeon as proof of their assured success. The celebration is abruptly interrupted when Luna rushes into the den, clearly distressed. She demands to know what is happening and why Orin is now working with the Night Sky's Silver Rabbits. Her words leave the room in stunned silence. The idea that a supposedly weakened channel like Orin could be recruited so easily by such a renowned party baffles them. Luna immediately voices her objections, questioning what could have happened while she was away from town. Anelli hastily fabricates a story, claiming that Orin chose to leave the party of his own accord. This explanation leaves Luna to briefly wonder if Orin had simply given up on them. Derek, the party's defender, is far more blunt. He states that Orin was deemed too weak to remain a member of the Heroes Party, and explains that Oliver and the others decided to cut him loose if they were ever to clear the deeper levels of the Southern Dungeon. With everyone present, Oliver seizes the opportunity to reveal his plan. Now that they have a new enchanter, he intends to begin their next expedition on the 92nd floor to test their teamwork. Luna strongly objects, stating that she has no desire to die and that starting at such a deep level is reckless. Despite her protests, Oliver eventually persuades her to go along with the plan. The scene then returns to present, where the hero's party is locked in combat with a massive elephant-like monster deep within the dungeon. Oliver blocks one of its attacks and charges forward with all his strength, only to find that his blow has almost no effect. Confused, he wonders why his body feels so weak. When the enchantment buff provided by Philly fades, his limbs grow unbearably heavy, leaving him barely able to stand. This is an entirely new and unsettling experience for him. Oliver demands an explanation from Philly, asking why her buffs keep wearing off and leaving them weaker instead of stronger. Philly struggles to answer and admits that she has not yet figured out how the party fights as a unit. Oliver finds this unacceptable, as he is unaccustomed to such performance from an enchanter. He recalls how Orin had always been quick to read his allies' attack patterns and devise precise countermeasures without being asked. Meanwhile, Derek blocks another incoming strike, only for the blow to be deflected toward Anelli. He is shocked at how difficult it is to defend against such a basic attack. Anelli fires a spell at the monster, but the damage is negligible, no more effective than tossing popcorn at a healthy adult. Frustrated, Oliver orders her to stop holding back and attack with the power she normally displays. Anelli, however, admits that she cannot understand what is wrong with her magic. Growing desperate, Oliver asks Philly to reapply her buff to Anelli, which she does. Even so, Anelli's next attack remains just as weak and ineffective. Oliver then tells Philly to read the flow of battle and determine their next move, only for her to reply that she is unable to do so. Oliver is taken aback, believing that reading the battlefield is an enchanter's responsibility. In reality, it had never been Philly's role at all. Orin had been performing that function for the team all along. Without realizing it, the party had become completely dependent on him. As the fight drags on, Oliver still cannot explain his own weakness. By all logic, the support magic cast by Philly should have been far stronger than Orin's. Yet, faced with the harsh reality of battle, the difference between theory and experience becomes painfully clear. Luna is the first to fully grasp what is truly happening to the party. Just as she is about to explain the reason behind their sudden weakness, an ominous presence descends upon the battlefield. Without warning, the Black Dragon appears. At this point, Oliver completely loses his composure. Everything rapidly begins to spiral out of control. The Black Dragon does not leave the boss area. Yet, for reasons unknown, it casually approaches the party as if merely stretching its wings. A faint sense of heroism still lingers within the group. After all, they had defeated this very dragon once before, even when the odds were stacked against them. However, that victory had been achieved with Orin at their side. Still refusing to acknowledge the significance of Orin's role, the party chooses to confront the Black Dragon once more, this time relying on their new enchantress. Before long, it becomes painfully clear that this was a fatal miscalculation and all hope quickly fades. Realizing they stand no chance, the party hastily devises an escape plan. Luna activates a rare artifact capable of transporting all party members to an upper floor of the dungeon, although doing so would force them to face a different boss. It is far preferable to certain death at the hands of the Black Dragon. A portal opens, but the group hesitates for too long. Seizing the opportunity, the dragon spreads its wings and enters the portal before any of them can react. Derek is the only one momentarily relieved, believing that they are now safe. Luna immediately shatters that illusion, pointing out that the Black Dragon has been transported to a floor typically occupied by weak bosses. This means that countless adventurers currently on that level are now in mortal danger. After taking the time to heal her allies, Luna begins to explain the true reason behind their current struggles as they move to intercept the dragon and save the other adventurers. First, she explains that Orin was a master strategist, capable of formulating flawless battle plans in mere moments. Second, despite the apparent weakness of his enchantment magic, Orin had developed several additional forms of magic that had been supporting the party all along without their awareness. Luna gives a clear example, stating that one of Orin's spells affected weapons and equipment rather than people. This meant that even when standard buffs expired, their swords and shields remained unnaturally light, preventing the crushing fatigue they were now experiencing. As a result, the team had never gradually weakened during prolonged battles. Furthermore, Orin had been exceptionally skilled at compensating for allies who possessed resistance to buff magic. Oliver, in particular, could not be enhanced for more than a minute by conventional means. Orin had countered this limitation through refined techniques and deep understanding rather than raw spell power. Luna then reveals Orin's greatest secret. He had created an original spell capable of increasing a person's offensive potency by more than 50 times. The revelation leaves the entire party in disbelief. Such magic was unheard of. She explains that Orin had been applying the spell during Oliver's and Anelli's strongest attacks, which was why their blows had once seemed overwhelmingly powerful. Oliver had believed those feats were achieved through his own strength, merely supported by Orin's standard buffs. The truth, however, is far more sobering. Orin himself had been the true source of their power all along. As the party advances to rescue the other adventurers, Oliver is weighed down by guilt for the chaos he has caused. Even so, his pride still overpowers his reason. He refuses to accept that Orin had been the foundation of their success from the very beginning. Instead, he silently vows to defeat the Black Dragon on his own, determined to prove that he does not need Orin's help, no matter the cost. The 5th episode opens with Orin briefing the rookies assigned to him on the objective of the day's dungeon hunt. He explains that their goal is to advance steadily until they reach level 51, at which point they are to end the run. Once they reach that level, they will activate their magic teleportation crystals and return safely outside the dungeon. Orin delivers these instructions with unwavering confidence, projecting the image of a leader capable of handling anything the dungeon might throw at them. Beneath a composed exterior, however, his resolve is not entirely steady. Orin is fully aware of his own abilities, and is certain that facing level 51 demons will pose little challenge. Commanding the rookies and coordinating their movements should not be a problem either, as they are all capable in their own right. Yet, despite every logical factor pointing toward a successful outcome, he cannot shake the lingering sense that something will go wrong. It feels as though the dungeon itself is exuding an ominous presence, one that only he seems able to perceive. He is pulled back to reality when Caroline asks what she can do to improve as a warrior inside the dungeon. Orin advises her to hold back more often, reminding her that, as a defender, she should not be rushing headlong into battle. He explains that she tends to act too independently and needs to start thinking as part of a team rather than as a lone fighter. Logan agrees with Orin's assessment and adds that Albert, one of the most respected members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, had always emphasized teamwork above all else. Caroline acknowledges that a defender is supposed to stay back, but she insists that she rushes forward only to protect her comrades by keeping monsters at a distance from her teammates. She adds, with a dull expression, that Albert died while defending a defender, when it should have been the other way around. The look on her face convinces Orin that she has touched upon a painful memory from her past. Though curiosity stirs within him, he understands that it is not his place to pry into her private life. Instead, he simply tells her that they will all need her today. The reassurance lifts her spirits. Sophia and Logan then ask what they should focus on to become stronger. Orin responds with a detailed and critical analysis of their strengths and weaknesses, offering guidance that proves genuinely helpful to both of them. Their discussion is interrupted when Selma approaches Orin, having overheard their conversation about Albert. She remarks that he was someone the Night Sky Silver Rabbits could always rely on, and that his absence has left the organization desperate for someone equally competent. Orin replies calmly that he hopes the organization finds what it is searching for. Selma, seeing through his evasiveness, tells him to stop playing dumb and asks directly what he thinks about permanently joining the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Orin remains firm, reiterating that he has no intention of joining any organization. He adds that the Night Sky Silver Rabbits do not need a second enchanter, especially when they already have the best enchanter on the continent in Selma herself. Though disappointed by his answer, Selma respects his decision and ultimately comes to terms with it. All of the rookies and senior members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits assemble as Selma steps forward to address them. She delivers a rousing speech outlining the day's objectives, rallying the group and reinforcing their resolve before the dungeon raid begins. To ensure wider coverage of the dungeon, the organization divides into multiple teams, each consisting of 6 to 10 members. Orin's team, however, is assigned only 4 people, himself included. This immediately unsettles Sophia, who voices concern that such a small group could be dangerously exposed. Logan, on the other hand, interprets it as a sign of confidence in their abilities, suggesting that the organization trusts these 3 rookies more than the rest. Orin acknowledges that Logan may not be entirely wrong, but he explains that the real reason lies in dungeon strategy. Splitting into smaller units allows for more efficient exploration, and once teams regroup, they can share the intelligence they have gathered. He adds that this ability to divide and reconverge is precisely why large organizations like the Night Sky Silver Rabbits hold a decisive advantage over newer, smaller parties. Caroline then remarks that since Orin has already ventured into the lower floors, he must possess extensive knowledge of the dungeon. The others grow visibly excited and bombard him with questions about what lies below. The onslaught becomes so overwhelming that Orin eventually has to stop them, unable to answer everything at once. As they descend deeper into dungeon, an unsettling realization sets in. The area is eerily empty. Orin's earlier sense of unease resurfaces, stronger than before. He reasons that the monsters that normally inhabit these floors seem to be avoiding the area, as if frightened by something far more dangerous. While they discuss this possibility, a monster suddenly emerges. Judging it to be weak, Caroline charges forward, eager to end both the threat and her growing boredom. Orin attempts to stop her, immediately recognizing that the monster is far stronger than it appears. His warning comes too late. Forced to intervene, he casts a debuff enchantment to slow the creature down, creating an opening that allows Caroline to finish it off. Once the danger has passed, Orin sternly reprimands her, reminding her that a defender is meant to be the core of the team. If that core becomes reckless, the entire formation collapses. Caroline apologizes and Orin accepts, choosing instead to turn the moment into a lesson. He introduces her to the concept of active defense, explaining that it involves closely reading an opponent's movements before they attack. For a dodge-based offender like Caroline, mastering this technique could be invaluable. Logan is clearly impressed and immediately asks if Orin can offer him advice as well. Elsewhere, the hero's party arrives at the guild where all major dungeon raiding organizations are registered. Luna declares that they must meet the guild master at once, insisting that his current engagements are irrelevant. When they finally stand before him, Oliver is too ashamed to speak, burdened by guilt over his failure. Luna takes responsibility for explaining the situation, admitting that their mistake allowed the Black Dragon, normally confined to floor 92, to roam the upper levels of the dungeon. Its current location is unknown. Given the danger, Luna demands immediate mass teleportation of all dungeon raiders, warning that every life inside the dungeon is at risk. One of the Guildmaster's advisors cautions against such a drastic measure, noting the enormous mana cost and suggesting an emergency meeting instead. Luna firmly rejects the idea, arguing that there is no time for deliberation. Back in the dungeon, Logan presses Orin for guidance on debuff magic. Orin advises him to focus on mastering standard enchantments first, explaining that debuffs require extensive knowledge. Each monster possesses different resistances, and effective debuffing depends on understanding exactly which type of magic a target is vulnerable to. He adds that as monsters grow stronger, the effectiveness of debuffs diminishes significantly. As an alternative, Orin demonstrates how enchantments can be used to set traps, emphasizing that securing their rear allows a team to advance far more confidently. He also offers Sophia advice, telling her that rather than relying on a single powerful spell, she should learn to cast multiple spells simultaneously. This would allow her to maintain constant pressure instead of becoming a liability while charging a high-level attack. Meanwhile, the Guild Master and the Inner Council begin gathering mana to initiate a forced teleportation of all raiders in the southern dungeon. During the process, it becomes clear that the Council places full blame on Oliver and intends to eliminate the Black Dragon themselves once everyone is evacuated. Though hesitant, Luna ultimately agrees and assures them that her party will take responsibility for slaying the dragon. Back inside the dungeon, the Night Sky Silver Rabbits regroup. They have not yet encountered the Black Dragon, but they prepare to face the final boss of the day on dungeon level 51. The rookies are instructed to stand aside and observe, as only Orin, Selma, and the veteran members will participate in the battle, turning it into a live lesson for future encounters. Orin leads the charge. Using his keen analytical insight, he targets the monster's quadriceps, crippling its ability to advance. When it attempts to retreat, he deploys trap magic to cut off its escape route. This allows Selma and the other veterans to attack relentlessly, bringing the creature down with ruthless efficiency. Moments later, another enemy emerges, a massive crab-like monster. Once again, Orin moves first, activating a powerful enchantment known as Impact, which amplifies his attack strength more than 100-fold for a brief instant. The strike pierces straight to the monster's claws, rendering it incapable of fighting back. Orin reflects briefly that the spell is essentially a loophole he discovered while experimenting with ways to strengthen his otherwise weak magic. The rest of the team finishes the creature without difficulty. Elsewhere, the hero's party marches toward the southern dungeon under direct orders from the Guild Master, preparing for the confrontation with the Black Dragon. Luna admits that their only real chance of victory lies in convincing Orin to join them, despite his exile and the humiliation he once suffered at their hands. In the end, the fate of everyone now hinges on Orin and the choice he is yet to make. The 6th episode opened with Selma announcing to the entire group that their 3-day expedition to level 51 of the Southern Dungeon had finally come to an end. She reported that everyone, from the rookies to the senior guild members, had performed flawlessly, allowing them to reach such a dangerous depth without a single casualty. It was a remarkable achievement for the veterans and an invaluable learning experience for the newcomers. The party's morale was high, and excitement could be seen on every face. Amid the celebration, Oren reflected quietly. He believed his time with the Night Sky Silver Rabbits was nearing its end. The clan would continue to thrive without him, and he felt it was finally time to pursue his personal goal of becoming a fully self-sufficient warrior, one capable of fighting as both an attacker and an enchanter. He also felt a wave of relief wash over him, realizing that the ominous feeling he'd been carrying was nothing more than paranoia. That sense of calm shattered in an instant. Without warning, a portal opened before the group, and the Black Dragon emerged. The overwhelming pressure radiating from his presence caused even the strongest warriors, Selma included, to tremble. A single question echoed silently through everyone's mind. How could the Black Dragon have appeared on this dungeon level? Selma felt the crushing weight of leadership settle upon her, yet fear left her momentarily frozen. Although Oren had faced the Black Dragon before, he too was shaken. Still, unlike the others, he managed to steady his thoughts and formulate a plan. He reasoned that since the true boss of the dungeon level had already been defeated, escape was possible. His idea was to run past the dragon and use the crystal to teleport everyone outside the dungeon. However, the flaw in his plan became immediately apparent. Countless rookies stood behind him, fighters who had no hope of keeping pace with him. Any attempt at escape would demand unacceptable sacrifices. To make matters worse, Selma herself was still struggling to move under the dragon's oppressive aura. Realizing this, Oren resolved that it was his responsibility to protect everyone in that moment. Gathering his resolve, he took command and instructed Selma to cover him as he charged toward the dragon. Responding at once, Selma ordered the defenders to form the front line, while an enchanter erected a massive magical wall to shield the rookies from the dragon's incoming attack. The barrier, however, was clearly insufficient. Noticing its weakness, Oren reinforced it using his magic, Impact, strengthening the wall just enough to withstand the Black Dragon's blast. Seizing an opening, he counterattacked, rushing straight toward the dragon's neck. He amplified his strike by over 100-fold with his enchantment, unleashing a devastating blow. For a brief moment, everyone believed it might be enough. When the dust settled, that hope was crushed. The dragon emerged completely unscathed. Even in the face of such despair, Oren calmly told the companions not to lose hope, insisting that he still had a plan. With that, he charged once more at the Black Dragon, deliberately drawing its attention away from the rookies, fully aware that they stood no chance against such a monstrous foe. Selma watched in horror, fearing she was about to lose yet another friend to the dragon, having already lost a valued guild member Albert to it in the past. Meanwhile, Oren skillfully invoked a rare spell known as Deflection, redirecting one of the dragon's own attacks back at it. Logan could not hide his astonishment. He realized he had never seen such magic before. Not even Selma was capable of performing it. Yet, despite being struck by its own power, the Black Dragon emerged once again without a single wound, proving that the battle was far from over. Oren realized that defeating the Black Dragon without taking extreme risks was impossible. He acknowledged that he could barely keep pace with the creature unless he was willing to push himself far, beyond his limits. To stand even a chance against it, he decided to rely on one of his original techniques. Fully aware that doing so would place an enormous strain on his body, he activated high-level enchantment magic, boosting all of his stats at once. Selma immediately took notice. She recognized the spell as an advanced technique that enhanced every physical and magical attribute simultaneously, one that required exceptional precision and control to execute. Yet she also understood its critical limitation. As an enchanter, Oren should only have been able to reinforce each stat twice. What he did next defied all logic. Oren cast the same enhancement spell 4 additional times, stacking it until his stats were amplified 5-fold. Selma could hardly believe her eyes. Under normal rules, recasting a spell merely refreshed its duration rather than increasing its potency. And yet, there was no denying the result. Oren's power had multiplied dramatically. Even Selma, widely regarded as the greatest enchanter on the continent, had never witnessed anything like it. With his enhanced abilities, Oren resumed his assault on the Black Dragon. He moved with such evasive speed that the creature struggled to track him. When it nearly struck him midair with a sweeping tail attack, Oren suddenly stepped onto an invisible foothold, sharply changing direction to evade the blow. This maneuver was not magic, but a unique innate ability he had possessed since birth. Spotting an opening, Oren lunged forward and struck with his sword, combining his 5-fold enhanced stats with multiple enchantments, impact, sharpness up, and durability up. The blow finally landed with force, cracking the dragon's armor for the first time. Though the creature was far from defeated, the damage was undeniable. Selma watched in stunned disbelief. A human was standing alone against the black dragon, and not merely surviving, but actively pressing the advantage. She quickly realized that joining the fight would only hinder Orin. For now, the best course of action was to hold back and ensure the safety of the rookies and the remaining guild members. The tide soon shifted. The black dragon roared as dark, ominous energy engulfed its body. It unleashed a relentless barrage of lightning bolts toward Orin. Although he evaded most of them with expert precision, one attack eventually struck true, knocking him out of the air and slamming him to the ground. As the battle reached its peak, the scene shifted to Orin's past. He remembered a time when Oliver had still been his childhood friend, back when the two of them ran freely and trained together without a care in the world. One day, after returning from training outside their village, they discovered a nightmare waiting for them. Their home had been overrun by a bandit horde, and countless villagers had been slaughtered. Still children, Orin and Oliver were forced to bury the dead themselves. It was in that moment that Orin had sworn never to be weak again. He had vowed to grow strong enough to protect the people he loved. The memory faded, and the scene returned to the present. Facing the black dragon once more, Orin recalled that vow with renewed determination. He also thought of his former teammates. Though they had been far from exceptional, each of them had served a purpose. Taking on all those roles alone would be difficult, but he refused to let that burden slow him down. More than anything, he wanted to become truly self-sufficient. With renewed focus, Orin expertly dodged the dragon's lightning attacks and retaliated with fire bullet. Moments later, he activated trap magic, unleashing a barrage of flames through his technique known as raise and repeat. Finally, in a decisive move, Orin invoked Divine Flash, a technique Oliver was known for. Unlike Oliver's brilliant yellow version, Orin's Divine Flash was pitch black. He further amplified it with impact, forcing the attack through the dragon's counterstrike and landing a clean hit. At the very last moment, however, the black dragon interposed its tail. Instead of severing its neck, the attack cleaved to the tail instead, tearing it from the dragon's body. Though the battle was not yet over, the outcome had been irrevocably changed. Orin realized he was fighting on his last reserves of strength. With his body failing and no room left for hesitation, he made a desperate gamble. For the first time, he combined Thunder Shock with Impact. The resulting strike slammed into the black dragon midair, forcing it to crash to the ground. Even then, the creature refused to die. The ferocity of the battle had reached its limit. Under the strain of repeated high-output attacks, Orin's sword finally shattered from the sheer intensity of the clash. Without hesitation, he released the broken weapon and prepared the final trump card he had been holding in reserve. He invoked Destruction. An overwhelming mass of mana converged, shaping itself into an enormous blade. Even without any external amplification such as Impact, the spell stood among the highest tiers of S-rank magic. Gripping the mana-forged sword, Orin charged straight toward the dragon. The black dragon retaliated by unleashing a relentless storm of lightning. Despite the attacks actively homing in on him, Orin skillfully employed deflection, redirecting each strike and forcing them off course. Pressing forward through the chaos, he waited for the slightest opening. When it appeared, Orin struck. He swung the destruction blade and layered it with impact and weight increase, amplifying the blow to its absolute limit. The attack cleaved to the dragon's defenses, and at last, the black dragon was slain. As the creature fell, the overwhelming pressure dissipated. Relief swept through the battlefield, and surviving adventurers rushed toward Orin, scarcely believing that the nightmare had finally come to an end. The 7th episode begins with Luna and the hero's party rushing straight to the dungeon, hoping to reach the black dragon and defeat it as instructed by the High Council. However, just before reaching the dungeon, they all witness teleportation magic taking place, only to discover that the black dragon has been teleported outside. The hero's party immediately takes guard in hopes of confronting it, but they soon realize that the dragon has already been defeated. None of them can bring themselves to believe that the dragon was slain by someone else, as they have always considered themselves the strongest of the strong. Luna then notices that several others have also been teleported behind the black dragon, including Orin and all the rookies he has been working with. She is the first to realize that Orin is badly damaged, as if he has been in a life-and-death battle. However, the remaining people appear completely fine, as though they have just returned from a relaxing vacation at the beach. This leads to only one conclusion. Orin has taken on the black dragon alone and has actually won. The boss that no one has been able to defeat and that has claimed the lives of countless adventurers has been single-handedly defeated by Orin. Luna rushes toward him to heal him, but Orin declines the offer, seemingly implying that he no longer needs the help of a party that has betrayed his trust. Rejecting the offer, he simply tells Luna to take care of what remains of the black dragon. He then walks away from the site, and Derek attempts to stop him, demanding an explanation as to how someone so weak could defeat the black dragon. Luna, however, stops Derek, telling him that he has already done enough to offend Orin. This wounds Derek's pride, and the already insecure warrior launches himself straight toward Luna. Unfortunately for him, Luna is far more powerful. She casts a spell at Derek that immediately restricts his movement, effectively ending the fight before it can even begin. Oliver then intervenes, urging him to break it up, admitting that he himself still cannot bring himself to believe just how powerful Oren truly is. Later that night, Sophia has to write a report on what she has learned from Oren during the 3-day expedition. She is described as blushing at the idea of writing the report because it is nearly entirely about Oren himself. It is noted that he has taught her how to be courageous when confronted with fear, how to cast her first high-level spell, and that he has also fought very effectively. Despite needing to write, she has not written a single word yet and is instead simply thinking about Oren and blushing. Not long after, her elder sister Selma comes into the room, as she shares the same room with Sophia, and collapses onto the bed. The day is said to have taken its toll on her, since they had to defeat the Black Dragon, and she also had a great deal of work afterward following the entire fiasco. Sophia tells her that even if she is feeling down, she should at least take a shower before going to bed, insisting that hygiene should always remain a top priority. This does little to convince the burnout Selma, who responds that she will take a shower tomorrow. Sophia then says she is even willing to join her in the bath if that is what it takes to convince her. After a bit more persuading, they both end up in a warm bath, where Selma finally expresses what has been troubling her. Selma tells her little sister Sophia that witnessing Oren take on the Black Dragon has been unlike anything she has ever seen before. She states that he is truly a marvel of a man. Yet the experience is also depressing for her because the things he performed are at such a high level that she cannot even begin to grasp them. It has only made her realize what she sees as her own incompetence. She is described as not being the kind of woman who gets jealous like other petty enchanters. However, as someone regarded as one of the strongest enchanters on the continent, she feels it is her moral duty to at least keep up with someone like Oren. Still, she is fully aware that a huge gap now exists between them. Sophia then tells her that she has been able to understand the things Oren did while fighting the Black Dragon. This surprises Selma, who becomes curious about what Sophia has learned from him. Sophia proceeds to explain all the basic things that Oren executed with perfection during the battle. Selma realizes that although Sophia may not have grasped the deeper level of mastery Selma herself was hoping to understand, she has perfectly understood what she was meant to at her own level. Selma then realizes that her little sister is nothing short of a genius, which makes her feel even more depressed about herself. Sophia responds by hugging her elder sister and reminding her that she is the person Sophia respects the most, insisting that Selma is definitely more impressive than she believes. These words are said to relieve the burnout and depress Selma more than anything else in the world could. The next day, Oren wakes up in excruciating pain from his last battle, as he has been very badly beaten up, and has also used a huge number of spells in a single fight, something he has never done before. It is described that he has to constantly use pain relief enchantments to endure it all. Nevertheless, he cannot stay in bed forever, so he gets up, only to be greeted by Selma first thing in the morning. They have breakfast together, during which Selma tells him that her higher-ups want to meet with him. Since Oren does not have much to do after the 3-day expedition, he decides to go with her and meets her superior. The man cuts straight to the chase and asks Oren if he wants to join their clan, the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. He explains that Oren will not only be joining them, but will also become a lieutenant of their strongest party. Oren reflects that most people would immediately accept such an offer, but his fear of betrayal by someone close to him makes him decide to take extra time before reaching a decision. The man also informs him that the Adventurers Guild wants to see him. After leaving the Night Sky Silver Rabbit's den, Oren heads straight to the old man's shop, the same place where he previously received valuable advice. He tells the old man that he has received a new job offer, but feels reluctant to accept it because he fears being used and then discarded. The old man advises him that it is natural to be afraid, and that using harsh terms like used will only further hinder his decision-making. He explains that heartbreaks are part of personal growth, and that if Oren allows fear to dictate his decisions, he will never truly evolve. This advice is said to kindle a new sense of clarity within Oren, making him more certain about what he wants. Later, he goes to the Adventurers Guild as requested, only to find that, along with the High Council, the Heroes Party is also present. The leader of the Adventurers Guild states that, according to what is heard, the Black Dragon was slain entirely by Oren alone, without anyone else's help. However, the Heroes Party disputes this statement. Despite having caused trouble earlier, they claim that they had already weakened the Black Dragon in their prior fight, which supposedly allowed Oren to land a final blow. Oren does not even bother responding to what he considers absurd claims. Instead, he makes it clear that what he truly cannot tolerate is what he sees as Oliver's utter carelessness as a leader. He points out that after hiring a new recruit, they went straight to dungeon level 92, where the Black Dragon resides. Oliver counters by arguing that they had a much stronger enchanter with them, and that an enchanter's role is simply to stay back and provide buffs to the team. Oren disagrees and states in front of everyone that an enchanter must constantly track how long each buff lasts on every individual, while also reading the flow of battle. He questions how such responsibilities could possibly be considered easy. This only angers Oliver further, as he realizes that he isn't wrong, but finds himself unable to admit it, since doing so would result in even greater humiliation in front of the council. Meanwhile, Logan, Sophia, and Caroline find Selma and ask her where Oren lives. It is explained that they want to convince him to join the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, as they have learned a lot from him during the 3-day expedition. They believe that if Oren becomes a permanent member of their clan, he will likely teach them even more things. They are described as being very excited at the thought of seeing Oren every day. Selma does not reveal Oren's home address, but she tells him that he is currently at the Adventurers Guild, and that, if they are fast enough, they might catch him before he leaves. The three of them rush off with childlike enthusiasm, and Selma cannot help but smile as she watches him run after Oren. Meanwhile, Oren has finally left the guild and is about to head home. He notices the three of them running toward him and immediately runs in the opposite direction. Eventually, he loses them and finds himself once again at the old man's shop. The old man asks Oren why he is so eager to avoid them, knowing that they seem to genuinely look up to him as a mentor. Oren explains that he has decided he does not want to join any party for the time being, and that he knows those three want him to join the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. The old man offers further wisdom, suggesting that although Oren may be afraid, what he truly wants is a place where he belongs. This gives Oren some clarity, though he still remains uncertain about his decision. Later that night, he meets Sophia, who talks to him about the beauty of the moon before finally addressing the real issue and asking him to join her clan. In response, Oren asks a single question: what the Night Sky Silver Rabbits mean to her. She replies that they are the reason she can smile every day, explaining that the clan is more than just an organization to her. It is a place where she belongs. This answer resonates with Oren in exactly the right way, and for the first time he begins to see a clan as a potential home rather than merely another guild. The next day, he goes to the Night Sky Silver Rabbits headquarters and makes it clear that he will be joining them. Selma enters a room and gives Oren his new uniform. He is then described as ready to embark on a new journey with stronger resolve than ever before, alongside new friends whom he believes will stand by his side no matter what. The 8th episode begins with a distant memory of Oren, where he is sparring with Oliver. They are merely kids who have barely reached puberty, while several hooded men stand around them judging the match. After a tough brawl, Oliver eventually comes out on top, and Oren falls to the ground, gracefully accepting his loss. The onlookers judge Oliver as the one most likely to rise and fulfill their dreams, though they also recognize the potential Oren possesses as well. Oliver, however, clearly sees through what he considers Oren's act. He tells Oren to get up and fight, seriously for once. Oren acts oblivious, claiming he has no idea what Oliver is talking about. It is recalled that when they first started out, Oren was undoubtedly the stronger one, but over time things have changed and Oliver now stands on top. Oliver is far too perceptive to accept this explanation, and he leaves while remarking that one day Oren will have to take him seriously. Oren remains lying there, completely satisfied with the result, until a mysterious girl suddenly appears and startles him. She is Shaun, one of his friends. Oren thinks he has made himself look rather lame in front of her after losing to Oliver, but Shaun disagrees and insists that he looks spectacular. Oren then reveals that he once felt intense pressure from society to live up to expectations when he was considered the best swordsman, but he believes that burden now rests on Oliver. As Oliver's best friend, he promises to help him endure that weight no matter what. Shaun eventually leaves, telling him she hopes to walk by his side once she achieves a mysterious goal, the details of which remain undisclosed for now. Sometime later, the Guild Master of the Southern Continent reports to his superior about a very peculiar phenomenon that has occurred recently. He explains that someone has been strong enough to take on the Black Dungeon Dragon alone and actually win the fight. The leader is pleased to hear the news, as the Black Dragon had claimed many lives in the past and had been a hindrance to dungeon expeditions. He also remarks that whoever faced the Black Dragon alone must have been truly suicidal. The leader guesses that it might have been Oliver who took it down, but the Guild Master corrects him, explaining that it was actually Oren who claimed the dragon's prize head. This news shakes the leader, and he wonders to himself whether the real Oren might be back. He asks the Guild Master if Oren has been acting strangely recently. However, he is reassured that Oren is simply another adventurer trying to make a living. This reassurance calms the leader, and he reflects that Oren must have found another way to deal with the situation. He instructs the Guild Master to keep an eye on Oren and report back if anything suspicious is detected. At this point, it becomes obvious that Oren has a mysterious history with this person, though what it might be remains anyone's guess for now. Meanwhile, 4 adventurers work together in the eastern part of the continent, eliminating people who threaten them. One of the members is revealed to be Shaun herself. After defeating all the enemies, they reflect on how remarkable it is that 5 of the strongest fighters have been working together to take them on. Shaun immediately senses the presence of another hidden person nearby and calls him out. The person reveals himself and tells her that she remains as sharp as ever. The man turns out to be a messenger, explaining that someone in the southern end of the continent has taken down the Black Dragon entirely on his own. This surprises Shaun, as it suggests that someone of comparable caliber to her exists in this world. The messenger also carries troubling news, stating that this man may have already joined the church. Members of Shaun's group conclude that if this new person truly is as strong as reported, they would prefer him on their side. However, if it proves true that he's already joined the church, they believe they will have no choice but to kill him. Shaun decides to head south to meet this mysterious man. On her way, she reflects that if he truly has joined the church, the South may fall as easily as the West did to the tyranny of the church. During her journey, Shaun thinks back to her childhood friend Oren, the man with whom she once shared a dream and hoped to walk alongside for the rest of her life. Her feelings for him remain unchanged even after all these years. However, she recalls receiving a letter one day confirming the death of her beloved Oren, and since that day she has vowed to bring down the church once and for all, no matter the cost. Unbeknownst to her, Oren is alive and well, though his condition remains surrounded by layers of mystery that are yet to be unraveled. Meanwhile, Oren is having a meeting with all the higher-ups of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. The leader of the den takes his time introducing Oren as the newest member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. He not only introduces him, but also compliments his achievements and reminds everyone that this is the very person who recently defeated the Black Dragon that all the hunters have been struggling with. The leader then proposes that Oren be promoted straight to the rank of lieutenant, considering he has already defeated the Black Dragon. However, this requires a 2/3 vote of approval from the other lieutenants, which is why they are all gathered at the table today. Before the voting can commence, one of the members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits interrupts the leader, saying he has an important question for Oren. The leader allows it, and the member turns toward Oren with a solemn and serious expression. He tells Oren that his achievement on the field is undoubtedly second to none. However, he explains that being a member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, a special lieutenant, is not just about having great power. It is about sacrifice. He asks whether Oren is willing to risk his life for the clan and give everything he has to it. Oren takes a moment to reflect and replies that he cannot risk his life for the clan. This causes the entire table to second-guess his presence, with some wondering whether he is even fit to be part of the clan, let alone become a lieutenant. Oren then clarifies that he has no intention of sacrificing himself for the clan as an institution. However, he states that he would do anything to keep his comrades safe, including laying down his life when the moment demands it. He explains that this is different from risking his life for clan itself, which could involve loyalty to matters such as profits or political maneuvering. His response impresses everyone at the table, and they deem him a worthy member. The voting then commences, and Oren receives a majority needed to become a lieutenant. He then takes a stroll with Selma, who is guiding Oren to the room of Unit 1, where he will be assigned. Selma tells him that he gave everyone a shock at the meeting, as they had almost begun to second-guess Oren's character for a moment. Oren apologizes and admits that this is simply who he is as a person, and that he cannot help it. On their way, Oren and Selma are stopped by Estella, who works in the Adventure Management Division. She requests Oren's help in managing their new party at the den, since he has proven himself capable as a teacher during the 3-day expedition. Naturally, Oren worries that this activity might hinder his efficiency with Unit 1. However, Selma reassures him that he will not have to dedicate as much effort to his official unit as he did with the Heroes Party. In fact, she explains, there is even a limited number of times an adventurer can enter a dungeon per month in this clan. Oren agrees to take on the task, and Estella promises a hand over the documents later. They eventually reach the room where all the members of Unit 1 are gathered. Most of them have accompanied Oren on his 3-day expedition involving the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Regardless, they introduce themselves one by one. The first member is Rain Hugwell, who is a mage and the eldest member of the unit. The second member is another female, Lucretia Otis, who serves as a healer. The only other male member in the group besides Oren is Savory, who acts as a defender. Lastly, Selma herself is identified as the enchanter of the group. To comply with formality, Oren also introduces himself at the end. After the introductions conclude, Savory becomes the first to ask Oren how he defeats the Black Dragon. In response, Oren explains that the cornerstone of his success essentially boils down to 2 original spells that he creates on his own. He says that the first spell is called Impact, which increases the effectiveness of his attacks momentarily by over 100 times. He explains that the second spell can be cast multiple times and boosts his support magic by over 32 times. Oren further confesses that he has to develop these original spells because he cannot use spells that are ranked among the more mid-powered tiers. The reason remains a mystery to him, but through his knowledge and obsession, he manages to find other ways to compensate. The party around him is not judgmental at all. Instead, they remain supportive and believe that one day he will be able to perform higher tier spells as well. Savory then proposes that there should be a huge welcome party to celebrate Oren's arrival at their Denver. However, Oren raises a far more serious issue that needs to be addressed. He explains that he has lost his primary sword and must first obtain a new one. The remaining party members grow worried, as they believe that forging a proper replacement could take days. Oren, however, remains calm and states that he's been using a regular sword from a normal store up until this point, and that he plans to continue doing so. This proposal shakes the very core of the remaining members, and they find themselves questioning Oren's sanity for choosing such a low-quality sword for daily dungeon use. As a result, they all head to a very well-known blacksmith so that Oren's first high-quality sword can be forged. The blacksmith informs them that he is missing many of the required ingredients. In response, Oren presents all the items he has collected as trophies from killing a large number of dungeon bosses, and tells the blacksmith to use them to craft his new sword. The 9th episode begins with Oren attending a meeting at his newly joined ground from the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. It is clarified that this is not just any ordinary party at the Den. It is in fact the strongest party within the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Even before the meeting begins, Oren is described as feeling grateful to be seated at the table with them. He understands that they expect great things from him, as he is the one who took down the Black Dragon and is nicknamed the Black Dragon Slayer. He intends to live up to those expectations. He reflects that every choice in life seems to lead to some form of regret, and that in order to gain one thing, something else must be sacrificed. However, for the first time, he does not feel that he has made a mistake by coming to this party. Selma begins the meeting by briefing everyone on their mission for the day, which is to collect noxious sheep pelts from the southern dungeon. It is explained that this task is the reason the strongest party of the Den has been hired. The pelts can only be recovered from the 86th floor of the dungeon, although it is one of the lower floors and home to stronger foes. It is also a level that everyone at the table can handle with ease. For that reason, it is considered the perfect ground for developing their teamwork. They eventually reach the floor, which in particular resembles a picnic spot more than a dungeon. The sky is described as blue, the grass is green, and the air is fresh. However, it is emphasized that this is still the 86th floor of the dungeon. Selma explains that while some of the lower floors are indeed pleasant, that does not change the fact that this level is home to one of the most dangerous demons the dungeon has to offer. Selma then announces everyone's role. She assigns the responsibility of luring the enemies toward himself as a defender, with Rain backing him up. Although Lucre is a healer, she is permitted to join the battle of her own accord, but she must always remain ready to heal at any moment. Lastly, Oren is designated as the prime attacker. After making these assignments, Selma realizes that Oren previously took on the Black Dragon alone. Even when she attempted to assist him, he refused her help. Remembering his lone wolf nature, she tells him that he may work solo if he wishes. However, Oren expresses that he is excited to work with the party and wants to improve his teamwork with them rather than continue fighting alone. As they're having this heartfelt conversation, a huge fire cannonball suddenly appears out of nowhere. Selma is described as being lost in her thoughts, reflecting on Oren and how impressive he is. However, Oren is portrayed as always being on guard. He decisively evaded the attack and cast a spell to protect his teammates as well, earning himself serious aura points. They soon realize that although the enemy has launched his attack, it has carefully concealed his position, giving it the upper hand in the battle. Fortunately, Lucre possesses a special ability that allows her to trace remnants of magic. It is explained that she can use this ability to locate the position of the foe hiding from them, and she manages to do so successfully in this case. As the foe is revealed, the defender of the team, is the first to charge at it. He successfully captures the monster's attention, which gives Rain an opening to cast one of her spells. Of course, that spell is enhanced by Selma, who serves as the enchanter of the group. The monster is easily dealt with, and the party does not even require Oren's assistance. This leads Oren to assess that the entire party is highly capable. Will is able not only to block incoming attacks, but also to absorb them, making him an effective defender. It is also noted that the weapon he wields requires a high level of skill to use effectively. Rain is capable of casting high-level spells that most others cannot, and what makes her even more formidable is the speed at which she executes them. Lucre's special magic allows her to locate any nearby monster, which is particularly effective on the lower levels where detection is the greatest challenge for any party. Her powers essentially render the party ambush-proof. All of these abilities are effectively utilized under Selma's leadership. Their conversation is interrupted once again when two more dinosaur-like monsters appear in front of them. Selma considers this a perfect opportunity to eliminate them while incorporating Oren into the team's coordination. While everyone focuses on the two foes ahead, Oren senses something suspicious behind them. He casts stone magic and launches it behind the party, seemingly into thin air. To everyone's surprise, the attack strikes a camouflaged hidden turtle. The party is left astonished by Oren's awareness of the entire battlefield. However, there is little time to praise Oren, as they soon find themselves surrounded. Selma immediately takes charge of the situation and begins issuing orders. Oren instantly realizes that she is someone a party member can trust as a leader. Will continues his role of distracting the two dragon-like monsters in front of him, eventually creating an opening for Oren to unleash his attack magic coupled with impact. The combined strike eliminates them instantly. Meanwhile, the hiding turtle is dealt with by Rain and Lucre. Rain casts her spell Mjolnir, whereas Lucre, despite being a healer, uses her powerful spell known as Ice Javelin from her arsenal. The combination of these two attacks lands a devastating blow on the unfortunate turtle, destroying it instantly. After this intense battle, they continue their expedition, and it begins to feel less like a mission and more like a friendly walk in the park due to the pleasant scenery. Eventually, Selma addresses the elephant in the room and asks Oren whether this party is ready to take on dungeon level 92. Oren understands that the party wishes to slay a black dragon more than anything. Now that he has seen them fight firsthand, they seek a review of their team from the dragon slayer himself. Surprisingly, Oren gives a very positive response. According to him, the team is fully capable of taking on dungeon level 92 on their own. His words bring huge smiles to everyone's faces, and their morale rises higher than ever. By the end of the day, they complete their mission and manage to capture 9 noxious sheep pelts. Satisfied with the results, they soon head back. To celebrate Oren's first mission with the party, the entire team decides to go to a bar. Oren openly states in front of everyone that he is happier than ever to be working with them, and that they have given him a place where he belongs once again. However, Selma believes that the team should be the one thanking Oren for joining them and demonstrating how a black dragon can be slain. She recognizes that his power is a valuable asset to the team. Luca begins to cry during her conversation with Oren, explaining that she had been worried he might be the stoic, lone wolf type who would not get along with anyone. Instead, she discovers that he is quite soft-hearted and someone she can speak with normally. Her concern seems reasonable, considering that Oren is the only person in existence who has taken down a black dragon on his own. Their conversation continues, and before long Selma becomes drunk. In her drunken state, she unleashes a barrage of flirtatious comments directed at Oren, and he cannot help but feel attracted to her. She begins leaning toward him, exposing her chest, which has a lethal enchanting effect on him that even a dragon slayer like himself struggles to resist. Overwhelmed, Oren pleads for help from the other party members, but they are far too busy enjoying his predicament. To make matters worse or better, depending on perspective, Rain also joins on the teasing and leans toward Oren. Just as it seems he might be completely overwhelmed by feminine charm, Oren uses enchantment magic to put both of them to sleep. Meanwhile, the innocent Sophia is at home, wondering why her sister has not yet returned, since she usually arrives on time and is strict about the rules. Oren comes knocking at the door, and the shy Sophia, who is clearly interested in him, wonders what she should do. Feeling embarrassed about opening it, she eventually gathers the courage to open the door and finds Oren standing there with her sister on his back. Instead of worrying about her sister's condition, Sophia jumps to conclusions and assumes that their relationship may have become romantic in nature. It is explained that her jealousy leads her to this conclusion without any proper deduction, as she is also interested in Oren, and apparently the concept of a legal age of consent has not yet been discovered in this world. In the end, Oren leaves Selma there and heads back to his own home. Selma is left feeling embarrassed in front of her little sister, as she has always held herself to a higher standard. She apologizes sincerely for her mistake and lack of discipline, recognizing the kind of person she needs to be for Sophia to look up to her. Sophia, being the kind angel she is, forgives her elder sister quite easily. Selma then goes to take a shower. During it, she reflects on how Sophia could have easily misunderstood her relationship with Oren. She realizes that she needs to be more careful from now on and that she should support Sophia's first love, which happens to be Oren. Selma is already aware of Sophia's interest in him, and she considers that such a large age gap may not be a significant issue in this world. However, as she thinks more deeply, Selma also reflects on how she herself has begun to develop feelings for Oren. At first, she is reluctant to accept those emotions, but she soon comes to realize that it might be love after all. It is difficult for her to comprehend, as it is the first time she has begun to feel this way about a man. This may also explain why she's been so nervous ever since Oren joined the team, something her teammates have already begun to notice. The lingering question remains what she will choose to do from this moment onward, now that she is fully aware of her feelings. The 10th episode begins with Oren being at home, with a lit lamp on his study desk, as he reviews the files of 3 students he will be taking in at the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. The 3 are Logan, Caroline, and Sophia. He soon realizes that all of them come from deeply tragic pasts, especially Caroline. This is said to explain their motivation to find a home in a world as grim as the Adventurers Guild. In many ways, the 3 are said to be cut from the same cloth. The next morning, Oren and Selma meet the head of the management department, so that Oren can receive guidance on how to mentor his 3 new students. The head's desk is said to be messy as usual, though he insists that it is actually far less messy than usual. Oren is told that he may guide the 3 students however he sees fit, as the guild does not impose instructions on someone as competent as him. Selma suggests that Oren should at least be given a goal to keep in mind, since regardless of how capable an adventurer he is, it remains his first attempt at mentorship. The head of management then states that Oren is responsible for preparing the 3 students to face a mid-level dungeon on their own within 6 months. The goal is acknowledged as extreme, yet it is believed that the 3 are talented enough to possibly achieve it under Oren's instruction. Shortly after, Oren moves to meet his new students, but Selma stops him from behind. She says she wishes to speak to him about the file he has likely read regarding Sophia. Oren admits that he is surprised to learn that they are not real sisters. Selma then explains the full story. Sophia's biological mother is said to have been a servant in Selma's household who died giving birth to her. Although the household takes Sophia in, she is treated more as an outcast than a daughter. Selma explains that when she chooses to leave the house, she feels that abandoning Sophia there would be too cruel. She ultimately arranges for Sophia to join the same guild as her, the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Oren thanks her for her honesty and proceeds to the room where his 3 new students are waiting, all of whom are eager to learn from him. At the table, Oren outlines 2 essential principles. First, he states that during battles against demons, they must constantly strategize. They are instructed to remain calm under pressure and operate at their highest intellectual capacity. Even the most powerful spells, if used at the wrong time or in the wrong way, are said to be easily countered, making it crucial to stay mentally sharp. Second, he emphasizes that they must learn to think independently. While protocol and authority are important, there will be times when superiors must be questioned. He stresses that all 3 must become cunning. After the discussion, Oren asks about their motives for becoming adventurers. Sophia replies that she looks up to her sister and wants the freedom to decide her own path, just as Selma does, which is why she follows her there. Logan explains that he comes from a poor village and aims to earn enough to support his family and community. Caroline's response is said to be the most heart-wrenching. She states that she wishes to become an adventurer so that the people around her can keep smiling, because smiling people have never harmed her. Her answer unsettles even Oren. Oren then tells all of them to keep their reasons for fighting in mind at all times. He explains that dark times lie ahead and that their very souls will be tested. Under such harsh circumstances, it is vital to hold onto one's reason for fighting, as it gives people the strength they need to navigate the adversity at hand. The 3 of them then shift the conversation to Oren and ask why he became an adventurer. Oren reflects on his past, thinking about how he once lost everything, and replies that his goal is to become stronger because he never wants to lose anyone important to him again. He states that when a person is weak, they cannot protect the ones they love, and that is why he aims to become as strong as possible. The 3 are fascinated by his reason to keep fighting. Oren then shifts the topic to Caroline's name. He explains that her name is too long to say in emergency circumstances, so it would be best for her to choose a nickname that can be spoken quickly during high-stress scenarios. Caroline asks Oren to pick a name for her, and without hesitation, he begins calling her Carol. She instantly falls in love with her new name. Logan and Sophia feel left out and request nicknames for themselves as well, so Oren gives Logan the nickname Log, and Sophia the nickname Sophie. Both of them are deeply touched to receive new nicknames from their mentor, and Oren finds it odd that such a trivial thing affects them so deeply. It reflects how greatly the 3 of them admire him. The 4 of them then go dungeon hunting, and Oren observes their performance. He watches Carol fight, while thinking that defenders are meant to act as bait and lure enemies toward themselves, whereas attackers are meant to eliminate enemies from shadows. However, he notices that her natural fighting style is less defensive and more reckless, as she barges into enemies without concern for herself. As he is thinking this, he sees an enemy get behind Carol, so he intervenes by using his spell, Reflective Wall. He then slices a wolf with his sword and asks Caroline why she was not more cautious in her approach. Carol replies that she has everything under control and demonstrates that she has the ability to avoid healing herself instantly. In reality, she is practically immortal, as no matter how fatal the wound, she regenerates immediately. Oren reflects that this very ability is the same thing that has cursed her life. She was taken in by the Sickleman Church long ago, and they conducted numerous experiments on her, fully aware that she could regenerate. Eventually, Carol was saved by Albert, who later dies at the hands of the Black Dragon, further deepening her emotional wounds. Her trauma explains why she has no concern for herself. Oren tells her to look at her allies and asks whether they appear happy after she cuts herself. Carol is shocked to see that both Sophie's and Logan's faces are pale, even though her wounds heal quickly. Oren hugs a tormented Carol and tells her that she needs to start taking better care of herself. He explains that the pain she feels is not hers alone, as her comrades feel it within themselves as well. He then continues to embrace the budding adventurer and assures her that no one is going to hurt her from now on. This reassurance calms the young Carol, as these are the words she never knew she needed to hear. All of them then head back to the guild, and Oren has the 3 of them training intensely. Carol is taught how to dodge more effectively. Logan works on improving his spear skills, and Sophie is instructed to cast her spells at specific targets while simultaneously performing calculations in her head. Eventually, their training session comes to an end. Carol and Sophie then decide to take a bath together. They both remark that Oren is a real monster when it comes to training. During their bath, Carla and Estella join them. The group has a pleasant time together, during which Sophie becomes slightly insecure about her breast size. Meanwhile, Oren visits the blacksmith shop, where he finally receives his sword forged from the scalp of the Black Dragon. Holding his newly crafted blade, he swears that from this moment onward, he will not allow any of his friends to die. The 11th episode begins with Oren slicing an ominous undead demon in half right down the middle. His comrades then come over to talk to him about his form, and it is noted that Oren is most pleased. He has recovered completely since the Black Dragon incident, and the new sword made by Araran is one of a kind. Oren explains that he completely understands why the Night Sky Silver Rabbits hire that particular blacksmith to make all of their weapons. Aside from the old man putting everything into forging a weapon for the mighty Black Dragon Slayer himself, all the ingredients used to craft the blade are also of the highest quality. Practically speaking, there's hardly a chance for the weapon to turn out mediocre. The team expresses excitement about Oren's new weapon and asks what he will name it. Oren chooses a very bizarre and unique name for his first true weapon, calling it Schwarzhaze. None of his teammates understand the reasoning behind such an unusual name, so Oren elaborates on it himself. He explains that the word literally means black rabbit. His teammates argue that perhaps a word meaning dragon would suit the sword better, since it is, after all, made from the scalp of a dragon. However, Oren, being a sensitive person, explains that the sword also marks the beginning of his journey with the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, and therefore the name feels more fitting to him. The team members remain hopeful, as Dungeon Level 91 has been cleared, and it is time to head home. Selma announces that the next time they return they will be facing the Black Dragon again, so she stresses that everyone should rest well and be at the top of their game in 3 days. As they leave the dungeon, Selma speaks privately with Oren about the 3 students he is teaching. Oren reports that they have already almost cleared the upper floors entirely on their own. Selma is surprised to hear how quickly they are learning, recognizing that it is a testament both to Oren's teaching and to the natural talent of the students themselves. Later that day, Oren visits the old merchant to speak with him. The old man warns him to stay on guard the next time he heads into the southern dungeon, explaining that there are dangers lurking in the depths beyond the demons themselves. He reveals that the mysterious group known as Amunthot has been very active. Some of their members have reportedly been sighted in the dungeon, and they have already killed several adventurers, together with the Cyclamen Church. This organization is said to terrorize the world of adventurers by killing them while preaching the belief that dungeons should not be cleared. The reason behind their actions remains as mysterious as their location. Regardless of their motives, it is clear that they pose a serious threat. The Adventurers Guild has taken a political stance by ensuring that news of the murders remains hidden, believing that revealing the truth would only cause panic and lead to even greater loss of life. Meanwhile, the members of Oren's party reflect on the battle awaiting them on the 92nd floor of the dungeon. Rain remembers Albert, who bravely died there in the grasp of the Black Dragon, and she expresses a hope that he is watching over the team from heaven as they prepare to defeat the dragon this time. Will sharpens his blades while thinking about Albert, who lost his life even though he believes that he himself should have died as a defender. This time, he vows to set things right. Lucretia resolves that she will not allow anyone else to die from now on. At the same time, Selma gazes at the beautiful moon, contemplating the adversity that awaits them. Sophia approaches her after noticing the distress hidden behind her calm expression. She tells Selma that it is acceptable to fear the Black Dragon and confesses that she does not want her sister to face such terror. However, Sophia also acknowledges that Selma will never stop moving forward. The 2 strong sisters share a small but beautiful moment of vulnerability, and Sophia ultimately wishes her sister luck in the dungeon. Meanwhile, on the following day, Logan, Sophia, and Carol attempt a level 29 dungeon entirely on their own, demonstrating how much they have grown in such a short time. Oren accompanies them, but does not intervene. It is explained that he acts only as a safety net, ready to step in if his skills are ever needed. However, the 3 rookies prove to be formidable enough for the level of threat the floor presents. As a result, they prepare to move into the middle floors on their own for the first time. The 3 rookies return to the Night Sky Silver Rabbits headquarters and have their request approved to hunt in the middle dungeons on their own. However, Unit 2 will observe them to take a look at their skill set and put a halt to their progress if they feel the rookies' abilities are not up to the required standard. The rookies are scheduled to take on the middle dungeon 2 days from now. Unfortunately, that same day is when Oren must face the Black Dragon with his current party from the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Oren proposes that it might be a good idea to delay the hunt against the Black Dragon. However, Sophia interrupts him, explaining that delaying it would not be a good idea at all. She points out that every member of Oren's party, along with Selma, needs closure by defeating the Black Dragon themselves, especially after losing one of their closest allies, Albert, to that ruthless creature. The 3 rookies conclude that they are capable of handling the 30th floor of the dungeon on their own and assure Oren that he does not need to worry about them. Oren agrees to let them go alone, acknowledging that every bird must leave the nest eventually. However, he sets one condition. They must show him their game plan for taking on the 30th floor. The rookies submit their strategy, and Oren carefully examines its pros and cons. He concludes that their plan is well thought out, and that they will be fine as long as they stick to it. At the same time, he points out that they might not always be able to follow the plan perfectly in practice, so they must remain clever and adapt whenever the situation demands it. Before the mission, Oren gives each of them a necklace as a good luck charm for their first mission without his presence. The rookies cherish their master's heartfelt gift. Eventually, the day arrives when Oren and his party prepare to descend to level 92, while the rookies head toward level 30. On their way, the rookies encounter several goblins. Carol takes the lead, as she usually does, distracting the goblins and giving Logan and Sophia enough time to cast their magic and quickly deal with their enemies. Logan casts Rock Needle, while Sophia uses Arrow Needle to strike down the foes. The instructor observing them begins to wonder whether they are truly rookies at all, noticing how well they work together under pressure and how calm they remain during the fight. At the same time, Oren's party confronts the Black Dragon, facing it head-on with courage and determination. Selma provides support by casting 2 enchantment boosts, Vanguard Up and Rear Guard Up. Meanwhile, Oren casts his own buff 4 times to exponentially increase his stats. Meanwhile, the rookies arrive at the boss chamber on level 30 and are surprised to discover another party already there. Logan approaches them and introduces himself as a member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Unbeknownst to him, this introduction seals their fate. One of the girls confirms that this is indeed the organization where the Dragon Slayer, Oren, works. Another member uses a mind-reading spell and gathers all the information he needs about Oren. He concludes that kidnapping the rookies will be the fastest way to lure Oren and gain an audience with the Dragon Slayer himself. Back on the deeper floor, Oren and his party are locked in a fierce battle against the Black Dragon, a fight the team has been preparing for an entire year. Meanwhile, Carol attempts to stand against a mysterious group, but is instantly overwhelmed, crashing into an invisible wall before she can even understand what has struck her. At that exact moment, the necklace Oren is wearing suddenly begins to glow. He immediately realizes that the rookies are in danger. This realization forces him to push the battle against the Black Dragon to end as quickly as possible. However, the fight turns far more difficult than expected when the Black Dragon does the unthinkable and heals all the damage inflicted upon it, bringing the battle right back to square one.